So if y'all are wondering why there seems to be a cutoff in the conversation, is because we didn't realize that this free version of Zoom was really truthfully going to cut us off after a certain amount of time, because we've used it before where it's just kind of
Yes,
like
we
let us keep
have.
going, but they must be serious now. So so we had to get back on so that we could finish it up. But you were just talking about families, Joe.
Yeah, just the family construct and making sure that people really understand and really understand the value of how legacies are built.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at other cultures and just even Black culture, when there was that family nucleus that worked together, we had stronger communities.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that we see now is a lot of fractured families and
Mm-hmm.
fractured communities. And it is very hard. Um, and not to say it's impossible, but I think sometimes we lost the value of the balance that men and women bring to the table. And it's very important
Mm-hmm.
that we, get back to understanding how valuable it is for the nucleus of the mother and the father to work together to raise children. Um, Even if it's not in a traditional manner where, they're still together. Um, Kids need and individuals need both sides of,
Yeah.
of that equation. Um, I didn't design it. Talk to God about it. That's how he designed it. But it's so important because we've gotten to the point where, and this might rub people the wrong way, but because nowadays, no matter what sex you are, you can make money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because we have put money and resources on a pedestal so much, we believe that if you can just do that thing, that's all you need to do to take care of your family.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of taking care of your family, but it's not the only thing that's needed to take care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we abandon other things like the principles of, working together and actually understanding the dynamic that both men and women bring to nurturing a child.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things where, when you talk about kind of like the Black excellence, and just people actually, families working together, common goals, raising their children, leaving a legacy, leaving them with a better start than they had.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one of the things I think we all want to do.
Yeah.
We've all strived to, leave our children more than what we had to start with. And luckily, a lot of us have done that because with education and things of that nature, monetarily and economically, we can do that. But what about some of those other life lessons that
Yeah.
we need to make sure that are still imparted in our children, those characters and values that we want them to have, because that's the thing that will help you guide your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that we talked about, having the character to make those great
Mm-hmm.
decisions
Yeah. Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
because that's really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going the wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I need to turn around or I need to find another way to go, knowing who to get those directions from, um, and being okay with not being right all the time, which I know I sometimes have a hard time with. Knowing that we're not perfect beings,
Yeah.
and being okay with the fact that I'm going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that's very hard for our community is giving people the grace to be human.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because we talk about leadership and, somebody leading and somebody following, a lot of times we don't allow our leaders to make mistakes
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do make mistakes, we just cut them off, or we feel that they can't lead anymore, or you degrade them or talk bad about them.
Mm-hmm.
And especially as a man who is, you know, the head of the household, um, that's a very sometimes challenging role,
Mm-hmm.
because it's almost like I can never make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can never step out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about turning over the ball, but
Mm-hmm.
I always have to make the right decision because
Yeah.
somebody's looking at me.
Yeah.
And do the people around me, have the grace to give me the opportunity to be able to grow? Because again, for myself, I come from, my father passed when I was 8. And then my mom got remarried when I was like 21.
Mhm.
So there was this stretch where, yes, I had men in my family, my grandfather, and other prominent men in my life. But, a lot of times not having that direct access on a day-to-day basis, you're just figuring it out. Like you're just learning as you go at times. And I think people don't really give a lot of men that grace to figure that part out.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying give them grace to, be destructive,
Right.
but give them grace to learn.
Right.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we all need that grace. And we need to be willing to extend that grace, to others as well. Um, yeah, man, it's I don't know. I hope that folks have gotten a lot of heat out of this conversation because yeah, yeah, we were on one this week, but ultimately though, you said something, and it's to the point that I was making before. What we're focused on is developing the right people. And what we trust is that as we develop the right people will lead to the right outcomes.
Right.
The right person will then make the right decisions. The right person will then be the right leader. The right person will then develop into the right husband or the right wife. The right person can be the right son, the right daughter, the right father, the right mother, the right employee, the right business owner, entrepreneur, the right person, government representative, whatever it is. But we're in a society at the moment that wants you to be doing the right thing, but is not so much focused on whether or not the person is the right person. And we see how with all the advancements and stuff like that we have, it's almost as if we as people have deteriorated or gone backwards. You know what I mean? And so, not that we are we're not the end all be all. We're lucky if we got 5 people out there listening to us, but hopefully we can put some type of dent in helping people to, again, not be mediocre, but take things to the next level on the way. And really us collectively building the dream of humanity, together. Not just our own individual dreams, but what could the world look like? When we talk about, we pray at, on earth as it is in heaven, what would it really look like if, most of us operated in such a way that heaven could begin to look like earth, and even, or earth could begin to look like heaven, and even if that's not possible at a large scale, what would it be like if at least everywhere you went, you could bring a little bit of heaven with you? You know what I mean? So I'll leave it at that. I'll leave that as my final words for today. You have anything else you want to drop, or we good?
I really don't. I was about to actually go off on some NBA stuff that has nothing to do with anything that we talked about.
What were you about to go off on?
So obviously the first day of technically free agency.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've heard about Kevin Durant, the requested a trade from Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. And it's so crazy that it happened right after Kyrie
signed
to stay.
Just the interesting, I guess, landscape of the NBA again is about to change.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing where certain individuals are going to be next.
Mm-hmm.
But how quickly the I guess the dynamic change in Brooklyn. I think we forget how it came together and how it quickly is being dissolved because of the outcomes, because they can't get to the place in which they thought, and actually, I don't even think it's the complete, I think it's because there's no improvement, because they haven't even got to the conference finals. Now, I do believe that obviously COVID had it his own way, especially with Kyrie not, not being vaccinated and having to wait. But it was on one of the shows yesterday that they were talking about the difference between Kyrie and Andrew Wiggins. Both individuals initially did not want to take the vaccination. And Kyrie held out. Andrew Wiggins actually kind of, he just said, you know what, I'm gonna get the vaccine. And he played the full season, was an all-star starter, and won a championship. And they talked about how, sometimes doing things for the team, for him, it seemed like he sacrificed, his personal beliefs in a sense, to help out his team, and how Kyrie was more selfish about it, and it cost his team. And I don't want to, act like that was the only thing that, cost the team, because a whole lot of other stuff happened too. But it just shows you a lot of times how, talent can only take you so far. It got you to where you're at, but when you're in those positions, everybody got a little bit of money. Obviously, they got a lot of money. Everybody got a lot of money. Now it's about, the status among us and who can win rings and who can win championships and who can be the star. And
Joe, speaking to Mike.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry. But it just shows how, it takes more than just that talent. Having great leadership. Great coaching. Experienced coaching too at times, plays a major part in your overall development and your overall goals. And the thing is that as much as people love the construct of the Nets because of KD and Kyrie, talent-wise, it seemed like there was a lot else that was lacking on that team. And now you have what you have with KD leaving.
I mean, and I think it's because what we're not saying is that, it's about him being vaccinated or unvaccinated. Right. But there's a spirit in which you can do things which can either tank things or allow things to continue to flourish as best as they can. I think it's the way in which Kyrie decided to go about choosing not to get the vaccine, right? I think I don't know exactly how to articulate it, but more so how these things were done is what I think was the downfall, because. And that, again, in context with other things where, he hadn't played at other times for other reasons. So it's like you said, it's not just one thing, but it's kind of like, hey, how you handle a problem, how you handle a disagreement, all those kind of things can affect how people are able to move forward. So I think that's the challenge. There was a spirit on that team, and I'm not using spirit in a spiritual way. I'm just saying just an attitude or just a feeling of the team. Leadership didn't seem to really be strong. I don't think there was a strong galvanizing force on that team. I think it was, like you said, great talents who were like, okay, let's just put the talents together. Right. But like you just said, it's more than just talent. Because what we're talking about is the difference between addition and synergy. Right. We're talking about, hey, what does it look like when synergy is in motion? 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 + 1 equals like 1,000, because there's something about when you bring two things that just not just fit right, but that just work so well together that all of a sudden they produce more than the sum of their two wholes together. Like they weren't able to do that. Somehow, though, Golden State has been able to do that. And again, nobody saw this coming for Golden State because nobody would have said that Golden State had the greatest talent. But I think you're looking at a group of individuals who said, when we come together and we're in one accord with each other, whew, it's even if we're not the most talented, even if we're not the biggest, even if we're not the strongest, we can do damage beyond what we look like we should be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, they show that, experience and collective experience with the same people sometimes really does make a great difference. And there's something about knowing somebody and being able to anticipate things that you can't just get based off of two people with talent just coming together. And I think that's where a lot of teams kind of fall by the wayside. And the super team type of dynamic that people want to put together, it only works a lot of times if they have the time to make it work. Boston was kind of a one-off when they did that with the Ray Allen, KD, and Paul Pierce, and they were able to do it in the first year. But for the most part, it takes time. And I think that's the thing that we talking about, even with it takes time to develop those things.
And even remember, we talked about it, I think, one of the other times in the past, where you see beyond what just talent does is we saw when Iguodala took Gary Payton, and Gary Payton comes from an NBA family, right? And yet there was still space on that team because you had mentorship, right? We talked about that earlier. You had mentors there on the team who had done this before and who were still together. There's a spirit on that team of, hey, if you're going to come in and be one of the young guys, you got to be teachable to be part of us. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so if you're teachable, we can help you to position you. And so you saw, like you said, not the coach coaching, but the player coaching, and the players not coaching necessarily in terms of talent, but coaching in terms of character on the court. How often did we get to see something like that in Brooklyn?
Well, when you see it, usually is an argument.
Exactly.
And it's more of an ego-driven argument based off of talent or philosophy on the court. Right. And the thing about it is, Golden State, what their philosophy is. It ain't no question of what it is. Now, they might have disagreements for the most part, but that's from the newer people that haven't been a part of the culture and getting them on the same page. Their core know what to do. I know I don't watch a whole lot of games as much as I used to, but have you ever seen Draymond, Clay, or Steph argue?
Nope.
When they arguing, when somebody arguing, is Draymond arguing with somebody else that's new to the team, if anything. So those individuals have enough respect for one another and have played together enough to trust each other. So even when the decisions might not be the best, they ain't tripping.
Right.
They ain't tripping.
Right.
We get back to it. And I think that's the thing is, like, people, we are not in a space anymore where we work a lot, or we're willing to work to make things actually work, and knowing that it might not be as quickly as we would like it to be. And if we think it's supposed to be done in a year and it take 2, more than likely we ain't even getting to the 2 because we already bailed out after 1 year and 1 month.
And the reality is, the talent is still there for Brooklyn to do something excellent. We saw flashes of it. I almost guarantee if they took this time, this 1 year coming up, to say, hey, let's keep it all together, they could probably do some damage. But and this isn't to blame KD. KD must feel like there's something there, right? So then we can take it to higher leadership, because it's not just about the guys on the court or the guys coaching, but the organization. There's something there about the organization that has left a sense probably of distrust on KD's end, to say, hey, I don't want to stick this out, even if Kyrie is here and potentially going to be here for a full season. Nah, I've seen enough to make me say this isn't where I want to be. And to organize something about my New York teams, man, like we slacking, but that's important for us to understand. And again, we're using sports simply as an access point to talk about the real things that we're talking about, because this even reminds me of what you were talking about with like, hey, if you're going down the wrong road, how do you respond? Right.
Mm-hmm.
How we respond is so important. We don't talk about it. We only talk about where we're trying to head, but how we respond when things start. So of course, and this is I didn't give you this analogy, Joe, but I had an analogy for that concept too, right?
Okay.
I simply called it defense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because we all want to play offense. We all want to play offense. But what does defense look like in our life? Right? We all want to get the amazing job. We want to make the money, right? But are we doing the savings aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you saving some of that money? It's not sexy. It don't make the highlight reel, but it's necessary to be complete and to be whole, right? To be whole. And so there's something not whole about the Brooklyn Nets organization.
Because they don't play no defense. No, just joke.
Come on. But we even saw Steph finally won MVP this year in his fourth NBA Finals championship. This is the first one that he's won MVP. And what was one of the things that we saw change in Steph? Again, how do you respond? He put on a little bit more weight, a bit more muscle mass, but and in tandem with that, we saw him make defensive plays, key defensive plays that helped them to seal the deal. All right. It couldn't just, and why did Iguodala win when we saw him that year? Right?
On LeBron.
Part of his defense on LeBron, right?
Yeah.
So again, we could talk about this stuff all day. There's so much to talk about. And so we know that there's going to be more episodes, but
I appreciate you bringing up the defense though.
Yeah, man.
Not to belabor the point, but it's one of the things that, like, my son who loves to play basketball, I get on him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He loves, like any kid, he loves to shoot and all that. Mm-hmm. But I said, son, you got to play defense. It's still part of the game.
Yeah.
It's part of the game. Is very essential because that's how you win. Mm-hmm. You got to make more points than them. But then there's moments when you really do need to be able to clamp down and stop somebody else. Mm-hmm. And he has these moments where he comes and he was like, Daddy, let's go play defense. and then it's funny because I don't believe him, but I know he's listening.
Yeah.
And he understands that there's two sides of the ball.
Because you planted the seed.
Yeah.
Even if it hasn't flourished fully yet.
Yeah, it ain't flourished. But it's funny when I do see him play defense, I'm like, oh, he actually trying. You can tell when he's trying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So yeah, y'all. I think we'll wrap this episode up here. There's lots more to talk about. We're kind of just sharing. We're not trying to be gurus here. We're simply sharing our journey along the way, the things that are standing out to us as we go along the journey from week to week, in hopes that it'll help you. And I guess we'll see you on next week's episode. Average is failure. So let's get rid of it and count the cost. What does it cost to get towards whatever that dream is that you're working toward? What does it cost? What does it who will you have to be to get to the dream? What might you have to sacrifice to get to that dream? Have you even determined whether or not it's a dream appropriate to get to? Right? Is your dream even appropriate? So, but yeah, I'm not trying to open up more rabbit holes for us to go down. So we'll wrap it up here.
Wrap it up.
And we'll see y'all next week. So check us out if you want to, though. Average is failure. I don't even know what. If you see this on YouTube, just be thankful you saw it on YouTube, because I got to clarify some things. I got to get the website and everything back up and running, all that kind of stuff. And then, but you can find us as far as for podcasts at the cost of a dream, at anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And you can find Jelp's Instagram. You can find us at Average is Failure to Instagram as well, even though we don't got nothing up on there yet, but we will have stuff eventually. And Jelp, they can find you your Instagram as well.
My little Instagram that I really barely use, but is at Jelp Shinholster. That's it. At
Okay.
JELP SHINHOLSTER.
Yep. And then you got my Instagram is what is my Instagram? Word is Vaughn. And then like I said already, the Average is Failure Instagram is Average is Failure. So yeah, stay tuned. Hopefully this is the first of something much, much bigger. So yeah, we'll check you. Peace.